Our podcast is a part of the World Podcast Network, now with over 1,000 podcasts. Visit the World Podcast Network at worldpodcast.network to listen to podcasts in over 12 genres. Come vote our podcast episodes up and help us rise on the leaderboard. If you have a podcast of your own, you can join for free. Welcome to Reality Tea Times 2, the podcast where we discuss all the trash reality TV we love to hate. I am Tanika, and today we are going to be discussing The Other Way. We're doing that final episode just prior to the tell-alls. So again, just as a reminder, the podcast is going to be out for about a month from December 11th to January 15th. And during that time, you're still going to be getting episodes. We're going to be doing episodes that we normally don't do. If you want more information on the schedule of episodes, you can head over to either the episode for 500 Days of Bummer episode, where I discuss that in detail, or you can go to the socials, where it is pinned on most of them. Facebook and Twitter is definitely pinned there, where you can look at what's to come and what the schedule is. But just as a reminder, we're going to be covering shows like Married at First Sight, Owning Manhattan, Love on the Grid, Love Off the Grid, I should say, not Love on the Grid. That's the point. Off the Grid. We're going to be doing more Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, and there's another one I can't remember off the top of my head right now, but it's all there if you want to take a look at what to come. So let's do some hot goss. I don't think I have a lot. I actually haven't read these prior, so we're just going to kind of go through this. So Tom of Tom and Darcy, like, have you gained weight? That one. He, as we know, has been dating or engaged to Mariah Feynman, who we've seen, if you watch like 90 Day Diaries, we've seen her many a time. So apparently though, Tom didn't make a massive announcement about this, but he's married. Basically, TLC fans heard about it when the 90 Day Fiancé star mentioned it in a birthday post that he shared on Instagram for Mariah. So this would have been, I think, just very recently. People who follow Tom on social media saw that he shared a nice photo of himself and Mariah. It was her birthday, and in his caption, he wrote, "Happy birthday to my favorite person in the world. I love being your husband." Wow. So one fan immediately wrote in the comments, "You guys got married?" Exclamation mark. To which Tom replied, "Yes, we did. We'll post the photos." I wonder if he hasn't posted because it's going to be on 90 Day Diaries. I do wonder that, because I think we're pretty due for 90 Day Diaries very soon. Other TLC fans reacted in the comments to the news about the birthday and the marriage surprise. Apparently, they have been married for more than a few weeks, and they tie the knot on October 10th of this year. The date also came from Tom in the comment section. So here are some responses. I'm actually not going to read those. But anyways, it's there. So congratulations to Tom and Mariah, and great. So let's go to the next thing. This is more about me wanting to talk about Jasmine's new boyfriend, whose name is Matt Brannis, which of course is just, spoiler alert, I guess, if you don't want to know the outcome of Last Resort, although this has kind of been out there for some time. But apparently they've reached a milestone, which I guess I'll talk about, but this is more about me wanting, so I wasn't seeing much about who she's with now. But yeah, they split in December of 2023, which is, again, I think I've talked about this. It's so interesting to me because for those people who listen to reality gays, who knows that they toured very recently this year in 2024, they were at a live show that's near to Canton, I guess. I don't know exactly where it was now. I can't remember. Um, but they came to the show and acted like they were together. This would have been, I think, in April or May of 2024, and they were already split. Like it's insane to me. That they just were not together at that point, but of course they can't say anything. So, but yeah, apparently that happened. Again, this is a spoiler for those people who, again, do not want to know anything about Last Resort, which we kind of seen things on the commercials and everything. But if you do not want to know, I have to skip ahead about a minute, starting now. So apparently they had broken up due to her being unfaithful, which is not a surprise, I think. Jasmine apparently began to live with her boyfriend in Detroit. However, Jasmine claims that she is still with Gino as she prepares for the premiere of Last Resort, but you can't be with Gino and with the new guy. What? In her latest Instagram story, Jasmine shared a picture of a food spread showing a variety of sweet and savory dishes and captioned it Panamanian, breakfast for him. The house in all of Jasmine's social media updates is not Gino's, but supposedly Matt's. So here's the details if you want to kind of know how this happened. Here we go. Again, keep skipping ahead if you don't want to know any of this. So Jasmine and Matt seemed to have met each other at the gym. Jasmine was disappointed with Gino for not showering her with attention and money. This was not the life she expected to live when she was back in Panama. Gino used to dance to her tunes. He paid for her expensive beauty treatments and got her a sea-facing flat in a skyscraper. I don't know. Oh, right. However, Gino was in control when Jasmine, as we know, moved to the U.S. So we can skip that. Let's keep going. So Jasmine began sneakily posting about Matt and his house on her social media. She may have thought that fans wouldn't notice, and even if they did, it would create curiosity about her storyline. Despite having soft-launched Matt on her social media, Jasmine insisted that she didn't have a boyfriend and that she was still married. Not only that, illegally you are. Even now, Jasmine is trying to make it look like the food she has prepared is for Gino. Jasmine could be celebrating her 1 year of being together with Matt instead. So it's coming up. They started in December. But yeah, that's kind of the gist of her new man's. Guess we'll see how that plays out. But that's basically it for Hot Goss. I don't have anything else, just those two pieces. So let's get into the reason that we're here. So, Toe, Season 6, Episode 20, that final episode for the tell-all. He's just not that into US or us or whatever you want to say. Sarper and Shekinah. So, they're going to be going onto a boat. He kind of says to her at one point, he's like, I don't know how you did it, but you hacked my passwords. Let me repeat. This man says, you hacked my password. Oh, man. He says you logged into me and changed all of the default settings. And he's like, I am now, well, he says it a little differently, but when he said it, all I could think about is this particular line. He basically says, I am a beautiful butterfly. And that is from Bugs Life. And I was like, he basically says, it's like, I turned into a butterfly and whatever. And he's like, you're so lucky, you know. He says to her, you're so lucky. You're so lucky that I'm a beautiful butterfly. Anyway, they are currently, he says, in the middle of two continents. One side is Asia, the other side is Europe. So this kind of in this middle ground, which is kind of cool. And he says, I wrote a song for you. with his ugly voice, he says. It's just, oh, you don't have an ugly voice. He's not really singing. He's just talking and then maybe, moves his voice up and down a little bit. But he sings a song and he says, like, I would love you. Um, and then he goes down on one knee and says, I will marry you. Not will you marry me, I will marry you. And she's so obviously, yeah, she says yes. And she kind of says, do you realize this means that you will never have sex with anyone else like new? And he's like, yeah, turn around. And you're like, what? No, turn around. He basically put, will you marry me? Shekinah in like writing that kind of flat one off the bridge. And she's like, there's no question mark. And it's like, yeah, because it's not a question. Because you're going to, of course, it's not a freaking question. You guys did the K1 visa without like actually being engaged. Of course, it's not a question anymore. What is, anyways, so the next thing is we have an engagement party. Um, she says like she can't, before I get to that, she says like, I can't believe it. Like, we're doing that. And I'm like, again, y'all did the K1 visa. There's no other way to go except for getting engaged. Like, how can't you believe it? Anyway, he says in Turkish culture, you're not actually engaged until you do the ceremony in front of your family, friends, people you love, to basically solidify that engagement. So kind of explain here that they're going to be doing like a ribbon ceremony with the rings. And then he says, you'll have I think he said effort, but she's like, oh, you can't even say it. He can't say the word fiance. So, so Fasoon, I hope I said her name right, his cousin, tells her, you will have to, like, one of the traditions you have to do in this ceremony is that you'd have to give him coffee, but make it in a way that he would never like. And basically what you're looking out for is that he doesn't react to it, because if he reacts to it, that means like it's bad luck. The whole union is now cursed. So they'll be doing that. And she said then you'll have the ribbon cutting ceremony, and then I don't know if it's actually a cutting ceremony, just it's a ribbon ceremony, and then you'd be doing dancing, which she's not thrilled about because she's not a good dancer. But she does say that she's missing her family in this moment because she kind of hoped that they would be here. And yeah, I get that. So now the ceremony has started, and we start with the coffee. And of course, like, he has to know, like, this is what's going to be happening, that the coffee is going to be not to his liking. But she pours in all of the salt, because that's also what his cousin said. It was like, we could make it salty. So she pours in all of the salt into the coffee instead of sugar. And he drinks it. And he kind of blinks really hard. You know when you do like that, your eyes closed for a long time and your brain's processing? That's kind of what he did. But they're like, don't blink, don't blink. And he's like, it's delicious. And in the moment, he's like, the coffee was terrible. So we get the rings, we do that, and he's like, okay, well, I guess I'll give everybody the news about what's to come. And he tells his family that the K1 visa has gone through, that they will be moving to America. Obviously, he doesn't want to move to America. And he does tell that to his family, that his goal would be to live in Turkey. And he doesn't really say that to her or translates it back to her. He kind of leaves key parts out, which I don't recall ever coming up during the tell-all. which why not? But anyway, that's basically that. Obviously, the family's upset that he's going to be moving. Mom starts crying, and yeah, that's basically that. Um, but yeah, let's move on to the next. We got Corona and Inky. There's not a lot here for me to go through with these people, but we're going into a glacier. And they kind of scream into the glacier. They get left alone because in like the chapel area of the glacier, because people get married in here. But she tells him, like, I feel differently about my position here. What, or he says, like, what does that mean? And she doesn't know if the OG like plan will, you know, make them happy or whatever. I can't remember what she says here, but she feels like maybe a trial run for him, um, but kind of need to happen, I guess, in terms of seeing whether or not they would work or get married. I don't know. But he says to her, like, I am committed. She thinks that she has to kind of put her priorities first, which she should be. Absolutely. And she has 2 weeks to decide on whether or not she's going to go through with what's to come with schooling, because she has to mail the check-in to secure her spot. Which obviously we kind of know how that turns out. He says it would suck, but he's like, we'll find a way. We can visit each other, every 3 weeks or so. Both of us can. But she's like, I won't be able to do that because I'm going to be, her schooling is going to be very demanding. So, um, but anyway, they agree that they're going to fight more for the relationship. So we'll see. Okay, so they are now going to a natural hot spring, but he has been thinking, he says, about the future between them. And he says that, there is a place for you here and all that, but says, it's going to be hard for, obvious reasons. And she says, like, you don't want to get married, which, yeah, that's kind of what he said. And he says, well, I figure, we'll get married like after a year. And he says that he's not just saying this because she questions him on that. And I'm just like, but you said that it's not important. We're an atheist country. Don't believe in marriage, or you at least don't. And all of a sudden now you're saying, oh, I thought we would just get married in a year. That doesn't make any sense. Anyway, um, he says that he feels it and he would love it if they can make it work. So spoiler alert, it is not, then. But anyways, that's basically it for Inky and Corona. Let's move on to Lily and Josh. And there's not a lot really to discuss here, but um we kind of are still figuring out payment, and they were talking about Alipay, which I guess is a Chinese way of form of payment. And they try, not working. And I'm like, okay, let's try bank transfer. Although they kind of mentioned that it's going to take time for them to do a bank transfer. And he's like, we're not going to have time. And they're like, okay, let's just, postpone the wedding. Let's just, cancel it or whatever. And she's like, but it's too late, ma'am. It was too late when you're telling him about all of this the night before. All of a sudden now it's too late. It's just, okay. Anyway. And she's like, you told me that you had money and all this. But again, this is talk about the fact of lack communication on both of their parts because she doesn't have the money. She doesn't tell him until the night before. He doesn't have any money, and either A, he's lying to her, or it really is just transferring American dollars to Chinese um, money just not working. Anyway, he kind of says that between him and Jared, they have $1,200 in cash. And Lily says, okay, maybe I can try and get like a loan through her banking app to make up the difference. And guess what, guys? That works. So the wedding is on. We couldn't have figured this out. You had the 1,200. This was frauded. You had the $1,200 sitting there the entire time. And she could have just gotten a loan through her bank and most likely gotten it. That's okay, great. We could have done this before. But anyway, so we're getting ready for the wedding. Jared thinks that he looks like an emperor. And I personally think, and again, this is not a hit on the wardrobe or anything like that. I think the wardrobe, everything that was going on with this wedding was absolutely fascinating. But it's not so much about that. Just because it's him and he looked like Mickey Mouse. Point the difference, please. But she looks absolutely incredible. And then the ceremony begins, and it's amazing. It was, like I said, so fascinating. Something we've never seen before on the show. I thought it was absolutely just educational. It was amazing to watch. The different traditions was so interesting. It was, I really liked it. But she kind of goes through the fact that with Chinese weddings, it is recreated from the Tang Dynasty, and they have many traditions. So we have like they bow, they also tie their hair together, they interlock their arms and sip, I believe, with wine. Um, they apparently they I think this is they she says that they drink the wine in order to show like you know you enduring hardships and also like the happiness parts of relationship. So that's what it's supposed to signify. And all of this, all of the different traditions that they have to do here in this wedding ceremony is to show that a couple will grow old together and never separate. Interesting. I mean, I love it, but interesting. Because I don't know if this is gonna work, y'all. Anyway, they are now married. They don't kiss or anything like that. I think they're actually straight up not allowed to during the ceremony, but he says that with all of the, with their arguments that they have, he's saying this in the moment. I take accountability. Where, when have you ever taken accountability? Because I have not seen it at all. And even when the music changes and he's like, I don't feel heard from her. And it's like, great. So you guys still have some major issues that haven't been addressed. You're not married, so what difference does it make? But it's just like, what are we doing here? You know? But he tells Vivian that I'm hoping we can move forward. And she says, thank you for your apology. And he says, well, thank you for accepting it. And I'm like, she didn't say she accepted it. But anyway, he says that I want Lily to be happy. And Vivian says, like, I want to see you guys kiss. Like, can we see it? And they do kiss and whatever. And yeah, that's basically it for them. Let's move on to Joanne and Sean. Again, not a lot here. So she's going to be talking to Joey today to, kind of discuss everything that's happened. Kind of the first thing she asks him is whether or not he's kind of spoken to Jesse or Jesse has said anything. He says no. Maybe he just needs time to process. And she's like, are you mad at us? Maybe mad is not the right word, but disappointed for sure. I would say. But anyways, and she says, are you still processing? Yeah, you just told them. Like again, I think he mentions like it's only been maybe 4 or 5 days since he's been back. So let's say they've only known for what, a week, you know? Yeah, he's gonna be definitely processing. Anyway, and he says that I'm still in shock. And he's like, I just need more, thinking, more time to think. And he kind of says to her here, listen, I might not want you to move to Ireland, but it's your life, do what you want to do. Or he says, by all means, do move if you want to. And of course, she kind of challenges that with, duh, you should. And he said that, well, obviously, yeah, I would rather my mom be in the same country as me. And he's like, I don't want you to be mad that I'm not maybe where you would hope I would be. And she says, listen, I would never be mad at you or Jesse, which, but right, what they have to be. And she's like, you always come first. And she's nervous to kind of tell Sean that with the kids not necessarily wanting her to make this move means that she will not be moving to Ireland. So, yeah. So now we see her meeting up with him, and she tells him that I was hoping for a more enthusiastic, you know, conversation or whatever from Joey. And I'm like, what enthusiasm? You told your kids 2 years after you got married to this guy, and you expect them to be enthusiastic. She says, he wants me to stay. Jesse apparently hasn't even said anything. And John says, well, that is a no then. I guess you're not going to be moving. And she says, yeah, like, what do we do? Or he says, like, what do we do? And she says, obviously 6 years is not, another 6 years is not ideal. But you know what? It could be less than that. It could be 2 months. And he says, and I'm very happy about this, he says, why in the world would your children change their minds in 2 months? Like, that doesn't seem at all realistic. Yeah, mom, go and jump on that plane. So she says she's not going to abandon her husband, but she also will not be abandoning her kids. So I think at the end of the day, Sean's a grown ass man. Yes, you may not want to be apart from each other, but you're a grown ass man. These are underage children. They need their mother more than you need her right now. But that's basically it with Joanne and Sean. Let's now go on to our final couple. And that is James and Tatha, y'all. So he is packing to go back to the States, and she is not going with him. He apparently just kind of booked this ticket last minute. I guess I don't even know if it was a punishment or something. Um, but she said like she was in denial when he did it. And she's like, she kind of thought that he wasn't going to do it. Well, ma'am, he said he's broke and he has no way to support you. I don't know why you thought he wouldn't. And she's like, it just happened so fast. And she kind of says like she needs to think about moving back, which is like, okay, you are married. I understand you don't like the States, but that's not reason enough to not try. But I think he says they have no money, they have no means to make money, so he has to go back. And I think with him it says, what if this creates more issues? And she says that I don't, or yeah, like we're not going. And she says I don't think that will happen. I think this is, or was this about? Oh, this is about Angel, because she, as we know, wants Angel to have a visa to come visit. And he asked the question of, do you think like she would start more trouble? And she said, well, I don't think she would do that. Ma'am, we already have seen Angel in action. Angel has every capability and probably want to sabotage your relationship. Anyway, but she just thinks that Angel is gonna, make things better. Well, for her. So with him though, with him going back, he says that he'd have to kind of go back to the family to basically beg for possession back because he keeps screwing them. So he's just hoping that maybe they've forgiven him. And we find out here too that, well, let's just keep hiding things from our family and keeping secrets because they haven't told her parents that he's actually leaving Indonesia. Yeah, they do not know this. And I'm like, oh my God. We don't tell the parents we're leaving to go to Indonesia. We don't tell the parents that we are staying in Indonesia. And now you don't tell her parents that you are leaving Indonesia. Like, it's just, they drive me nuts. Anyway, he will be telling the parents, I guess, now because we're running out of time. So, so we go down to tell parents and that he's leaving. He comes down. Her father is kind of like, there's a lot of suitcases here, James. Where are you going? And he tells them that I have to go back to get work. And mom just says, you were gonna stay here. And he says, I'm going to, come back. And what they didn't realize is that Tatha is not going. And when it comes out that Tatha is not going, her mom's like, you're not going with him? Like, you should be going with him. And she questions, what, I guess, like, the state of, like, them. Like, they question, I guess, something going on with the two of you. Um, I think most of this actually was being done while on the bullet train, which, also a quick segue, they're going to be going on a bullet train, which is a train that I think Tatha really wanted to go on. I think her family too. But anyway, he says that I am going to, miss you, but mom's like, you should be going with him. So while they're on the bullet train, her mom kind of prompts this, but then she jumps on the bandwagon. It's kind of saying that she's worried that he's not gonna have a wandering eye or potentially cheat on him. And I'm like, oh, so now all of a sudden I'm worried about him cheating on you. More on that in a future episode. So anyway, he's getting ready. It's the next day to go to the airport. But she says to him, like, you don't have to leave. You can stay here. Why are you leaving me? And it's like, okay, again, y'all have no money and no means for him to make money. So, yes, this wasn't unexpected. This was very expected. But I mean, basically, he's in a car and he's leaving. He's on his way to the airport. So, that's basically it. Yeah, we'll be coming back with episodes for The Other Way. Probably going to be doing both tell-alls in separate episodes, so you guys can look out for that. And yeah, that is basically it for this episode. So if you like what you heard, please rate, review the podcast on either Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Also, don't forget that you can also share us with everyone in your life if you really love this. And I do want to read those reviews. I'm definitely getting 5-star ratings, but I want to read those reviews. So send me those reviews and I will read those 4 and 5-star reviews on the podcast. Also, we're on every one of your favorite podcast apps. Every one of them, including you can find us on YouTube at Reality Tea Times 2. If you want to connect with us, you can do so by going to either Facebook or Instagram at Reality Tea Times 2. You can also find us on Twitter, TikTok, Reddit at Reality Tea Times 2 Pod. We also have our email, which is at realityteatimes2 at hotmail.com. Definitely want to hear from you guys. And we also have our new website where you can listen to all of these episodes. You can review the podcast on there as well. You can connect with me in any way, all the stuff. It's all there, and you can find me there at www.realityt times two, all spelled out, dot podpage.io. It's there. And don't forget, I also have my other podcast with my friend Mikkel, Next Take Podcast, where we talk about all kinds of different topics. But you can find us on any of your favorite podcast apps over there as well. Or you can also go to YouTube, and you go to Next Take Podcast, as well as our website, which is solo.to/Next Take Podcast. So yeah, there's that, and that's basically that. And again, don't forget, if all of this information is overwhelming, we do have all of the links, everything in our show notes. But that is it for now, guys. Thanks. Bye.